Hey everyone, welcome to another video on my channel. My name's James, and today we're going to be talking about the 2020 Audi e-tron, which basically is identical to the 2021. So this review kind of applies to both. Now this is the first car review that I've done, and so today I want to give you my real impressions, really honest feedback. Let's buckle up and get going. I was actually really excited to drive this car because I think the Audi e-tron looks awesome, and this is the Sportback, which looks even better. And even though I'm kind of what they would call a petrol head, I actually really love electric cars. And for about a year, I drove a Volkswagen e-Golf. That was one of the most fun cars that I've owned. And in addition to just being excited to drive a new car, a new electric car, I'm excited because this is the first time I've driven a car that has a name that in French means poop. I can tell you right away that this thing feels really solid compared to a Model S. Audis are known for really high quality interiors, and this is no exception. The materials in the door feel really nice. They're nice and grippy. This is some kind of soft touch foam, which is very similar to the Volkswagens I've been in. I love the door pockets in Volkswagen Audi products. These things are huge. I can throw in my bottle, and there's tons of room to spare. And in here, in this little center console area, are my two favorite features. First of all, we have the Vita Coco holder, which is essential for any e-tron driver. And we have this little clip here. What is that for? Well, it's for clipping your phone in, and it's a wireless charger. This is brilliant. This clip is what prevents your phone from sliding around, making a lot of noise as you're carving up the corners in the Target parking lot. All right, let's talk about the tech in this car. It's got wireless CarPlay. I love the virtual cockpit here. The resolution is excellent. The legibility is excellent. They use the space really well. BMW needs to study how Audi and VW do this. Like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of the virtual cockpit. For some reason, it looks very full of glare in this footage. It's not like that in real life. You can toggle through different modes. The resolution is fantastic. You can get this big old map display, so that's really nice. And over here we have the kind of multimedia display. You can see that we've got, all these different options here. This is a really nice system. It's really responsive. Black levels are really great. It's very easy to read, even in daylight. Setting off in the Audi e-tron, the first thing you notice is just how soft and comfortable and quiet it is. The publications out there, I think it was Car and Driver, measured this car at just about the noise level of a Rolls-Royce. I would say my favorite driving mode has to be dynamic. The steering weight is more natural to me. The throttle is more natural as well. I actually think dynamic is the most comfortable setting. Why? Because there's less excess motion in the body of this car. When you're in comfort mode or all-road mode or off-road mode, this thing it can't control its own mass, especially in off-road mode where it's at its tallest setting. The thing just wobbles everywhere. And so I find that actually less comfortable than a more tied down feeling in the ride. You get a lot more body control in dynamic without sacrificing comfort over broken pavement. You can also set up your individual mode, so you can set the steering, the suspension, and the drivetrain separately. When you put the car into drive, you can push that lever up one more time, and it puts it into a sport mode. And what that does is it unleashes the full power of the car, which is about 50 horsepower more. So you're at about 402 horsepower. All right, let's talk about driving dynamics, because they always say oh, electric cars, they lack soul, but they're really competent, right? Is that true of the e-tron Sportback? Well, yes, actually, I would say that stereotype rings true for this car. The steering is adequate. I mean, there's no feel, but I think we're getting more accustomed to a world where there's no hydraulic steering feel anymore. Handling, I would say, is pretty good. Again, kind of numb, where you have to use your eyes and your ears a lot more, and you can't really use your sensations through the steering wheel or through the seat to know how close you are to the car's limits. But overall, very competent. And let's talk about how Regen works in this car. A lot of people criticize the e-tron for not having one pedal driving. Me, I actually prefer the way that this car is set up. Basically, by default, if you let go of the Electron pedal, the Go pedal, then the car will just coast. It only starts to slow down if you hit the brake pedal. And initially, the brake pedal will just do regen braking till about a third of 1G. Beyond that, then the mechanical brakes start to take over. From a physics standpoint, from a conservation of energy standpoint, that is the most efficient way to drive. People think that, oh, cool, like regen, increases efficiency because I can, get all this battery power back. Well, guess what? That process of converting from kinetic energy back to electrochemical energy, and then back to kinetic energy once you start going again, those processes are never 100% efficient. And so the only thing that's actually 100% efficient is to just coast, right? And that's why I love the fact that this car lets you do that. Braking is competent, but I would say that the brake feel is really missing. And part of it is the way that they do the regen, right? So Teslas have the regen that's independent of the brake pedal, whereas Audi VW products, well, they've chosen to have the brake pedal control the regen first and then the mechanical brakes. And so as a result, I mean, you get the greater efficiency, as I explained earlier, with the ability to coast, but the drawback is that then you get this really crummy brake feel that does not feel like brakes. The biggest weakness of the braking system really is the grabbiness at low speed. It's so annoying. Like, I come to a stop and bam, like the whole thing just like does this.
Damn, like the whole...
I think they really need to iron that out somehow. This car is rated at only 218 miles of range. This is a car that you want to keep close to home, that you really don't want to take road trips in. The thing about Teslas is that when you buy a Tesla, you're buying into a whole system. You have access to the supercharger network. This car, though, uses the J1772 connector, which means that there are a lot of chargers around, but it's kind of a smattering of different brands. You kind of have to deal with that whole non-cohesiveness of the charging experience. So this is a car that's best kept near home. The other reason you want to keep this close to home is that the efficiency is actually quite poor. I was told by the Audi rep this morning that the range is about 2,000 miles per 1,000 kilowatt hours, and I could not believe it. With Teslas, with the Model S, I could easily get about 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, and with the Model 3, I could easily squeak out about 3.8 to 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour sounds kind of terrible. All right, let's talk about the costs of running this car in terms of electricity versus, gas for an equivalent vehicle. All right, so I did some math so that you don't have to. I looked up some of the energy rates around here in San Diego, and I found that super off-peak charging at home would cost 9 cents per kilowatt hour.
1 hour later.
And to close the $7,500 gap, that would take 96,000 miles. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that unless you have like free charging, this car is not going to save you money versus like a Q7, even with federal tax incentives, right? And I know that if you're in a state like California, there are additional incentives as well, so that can help close the gap. But even in a really optimistic situation, it would take on the order of 50,000 miles to make up that cost. And so this car is really not about replacing a Q7 with something that's like cheaper to operate. That's really not the case. All right, so who is the Audi E-Tron Sportback for? This car is a really good fit for people who are looking for something a little bit different from a Tesla and want that solidity, that really Germanic, well-engineered, solidly built quality that Audi can really bring to the table. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the Audi e-tron Sportback. If you liked this video, please support my fledgling little YouTube channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. Very few people know about it right now, and so you're one of the few. So go ahead and hit those buttons. It makes a huge difference, especially at this stage when my channel is brand new. So again, my name's James. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Now we're driving down the street in downtown San Diego. I love this city. It's pretty fantastic.